Hey now, I'm Dave Lemieux, and I'm here to talk about Dave's Picks 49. This is our first Seaside chat of 2024, although as you can probably tell, we're not exactly seaside. And that is because two things. One, it's extremely high tide right now. I can't get down to the water to shoot the video. And the second thing is we're having a bit of an ice and snowstorm out there, making walking anywhere or driving or walking pretty treacherous. So I've decided to shoot this indoors in my office. We've done a few of these before indoors, and it's usually owing to circumstances. So Dave's Picks 49, the first one of 2024. If you subscribed, you can just watch this and leisurely know that it'll be arriving sometime pretty soon. If you didn't subscribe, I'd suggest putting this on pause maybe, or watching it through and then going over to dead.net and picking up a copy, because they do tend to sell out pretty quickly. They certainly all do sell out. Some take a few weeks. Some can be, we've had them sell out in a matter of hours before. Anyhow, that's just to say they do tend to sell out. And if you do want to get number 49, certainly head over to dead.net. Again, if you've subscribed, you're covered. It'll just show up whenever they normally show up, which I believe is the first week of February, right towards the end of January, something like that, but I'm not sure when you'll be watching this. But anyhow, Dave's Picks 49, very excited about this. It's a year we've never hit in the Dave's Picks series. It was only released once as a Dick's Picks this year, but never this early in the year. So it's a year we've been trying to do for a while, and that is 1985, a tremendous year in the Grateful Dead's history, their 20th anniversary year. We've been working on this one for quite some time, and we've hit 1983 with the Dave's Picks series, 84, 87, 90, but we have not yet hit 1985 until now. And it was, I think, such a monumental thing for us to hit 1985 that we've decided to do it as a 2 complete show, 4 CD set. I love the 4 CD sets. It's about 5 hours of music. And the shows, as you might know by now, are from the Frost Amphitheater at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California, which is where the Grateful Dead got their start almost exactly 20 years before these shows. In May and June of 1965, it's when they had the residencies at Magoo's Pizza Parlor in Palo Alto, and then through 65, they were still based down in Palo Alto. Then they did the LA thing in early 66, and then back up to the Bay Area to Marin County with Olin Poly, and then of course the Haight Ashbury House at 710 Ashbury. So it's an incredible couple of shows. The Dead have been playing the Frost since 82. They played 82, 83, not 84, 85, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then they kind of outgrew the Frost, unfortunately, as they did many Bay Area venues after 1989. They didn't play the Frost or the Greek or the Kaiser after 1989, but they still did do some tremendous shows at the Oakland Coliseum, and of course Shoreline, another Bay Area tremendous venue. So anyhow, these 2 shows, we had long had our ears, I'd like to say eyes, but our ears on the first show, the April 27th, for many, many years. I've always loved this show. My good friend Forrest, he worked for the Grateful Dead for many, many years. He used to talk about this show a lot. He attended it, but he also had the tapes, and he's the one who turned me onto this show. I knew it from my tape trading days, from a kind of a mediocre audience tape, but in 1999, 2000, Forrest said, "Oh, you got to check that show out." And so I did, and I had not heard the board in quite some time, and it was an A-plus show. And then as I've got to know the second show, which is more of a nuanced, a little under the radar show, but just as good, very different shows, I kind of started thinking about doing this as maybe an April 27th with some of the 28th as bonus material. And as we put it together, we realized that the shows were short enough that we could fit them on 4 CDs, the 2 shows. So that's exactly what we've done. Now, in 1985, so much was going on in the Dead world with the 20th anniversary. They did incredible tours throughout the year. They did the big spring tour, the summer tour, which wasn't that long, but included shows like Riverbend and SPAC and Hershey and Merriweather, Pittsburgh. And then later in the summer, they did some kind of one-off sort of shows. It was Chula Vista towards the end of the summer. The Red Rock show is a 3-night run. Amazing shows. So they were playing some great shows throughout the later part of the summer of 85. And then the fall tour with Rochester and Worcester and South Carolina. Great show with the Werewolves on Halloween. So a lot of good shows throughout the year. I mean, tremendous shows. I really love 1985. And they were not only playing great, but they were really getting inventive with the set list. They were bringing in some older songs, some kind of rare cover songs were coming back. These shows in particular, they open with Dancing in the Street, one of my favorite versions of the return of Dancing in the Street when they brought it back in 1984. Great Dancing in the Street. And the other one opens with Give Me Some Lovin'. And that's a couple of really great show openers. But throughout these shows, there's so much great music, it's almost impossible to select the highlights. There's a wonderful Just Like Tom Thumb's Blues, a song that was played in 1985, some great versions, but this to me is one of the best. One of my favorite versions of My Brother Esau, which is, I mean, a song that was only in the repertoire for about 4 years. Great version of Esau, always been one of my top 5 versions of Esau. A great China Rider to end the second show's first set. Now, China Rider was still occasionally a first set closer. As the kind of 80s went on, it became almost uniformly a second set opener. But at this time, a great first set closer, which allows the second set to then also have a completely different opener, not to kind of the regular China Rider, Scarlet Fire sort of thing. Speaking of Scarlet Fire, the first night, second set opens with a wonderful version of Scarlet Begonias. You can just tell how on the band is. They're hitting all their marks. Jerry is singing with passion. And it doesn't go into Fire on the Mountain. It goes into Eyes of the World. A really cool transition from Scarlet into Eyes. There's a pre-drums version of Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, which later in the 1980s and the 90s was almost always a post-drums and space song, but here it is in a pre-drums and space slot on that first night. Brent Midland's Tons of Steel, I mean, that's a bit of a rarity. It was only in the repertoire for like 3 years, from late 84 through 85, 6, 7, and then gone. So we get a great Tons of Steel. You get some great Brent Midland on lead vocals there. There's so much good music in these shows. There's a terrific, and I implore you, I do recommend that the second night, second set, there's a transition between Hell in a Bucket and Crazy Fingers that is unlike anything I've ever heard the Dead do. As Jerry is, as the band, as Bobby's singing the end of Hell in a Bucket, and it's really becoming that big rave up that Hell in a Bucket always did. Jerry starts underneath it all, doing the opening part of Crazy Fingers very subtly, very nuanced. So again, that's why I say put the headphones on and you'll hear this building explosive energy of Hell in a Bucket as it always did, but you'll also hear them heading into Crazy Fingers. Just a wonderful transition. There's also in that second show one of my favorite versions of China Doll. Again, Jerry singing incredibly passionately. Now Jerry's voice in 85 was a little rough around the edges, but the passion was there. He certainly wasn't leaving any of the passion at home, any of the energy, any of the inspiration at home. It's an incredible version of China Doll. This second set is just filled with really top-notch Jerry songs. The whole show is actually, from the Give Me Some Love, an opener of the second show, the half step, the China Rider that ends that set. The first show is, I think, the more famous show, and it's a really hot show. Really one of my favorite shows in 1985, which says a whole heck of a lot. 1985 has so many shows that, I mean, I'd like to say I could count it on one hand. Oh, these are my top 5 1985 shows. I can't do it. There's too many good shows in 1985 that were a huge part of my early tape trading collection. I started trading tapes in 1985. My collection really grew in 86, and by 87, it was, I mean, the sort of thing where I would set an alarm to flip the tape every 45 minutes when I go to sleep to make sure that I could make as many tapes as possible to facilitate as many tape trades as possible. 1985 was one of those years that I had so many great shows from, and they were, as the years went on into 87, into 8, 9, 90, 91, 85 was a year that I kept going back to some of my favorite shows that I have vivid memories of hearing for the first time. Hershey Park, the Rochester shows, the Worcester shows, Providence, April 4th, just 3 weeks before these shows at the Frost. There's a tremendous show at Providence, the Nassau shows. There's so much good music. The summer shows, I mean, the Merriweather, that Shakedown Street, the first set of the SPAC show. I didn't have the second set for a few years, but in 1986 or so, I got the first set of the SPAC show, and oh my gosh, what an incredible first set, and the energy and the playfulness. I don't know if it was playfulness, but the guys hanging off the balcony and Bob's telling jokes, and it's just a really, really great time for the Grateful Dead. They were having a lot of fun. Seriously, the Greek shows, I mean, there's so much to choose from. And I think part of the reason that 1985 took a long time to get hit with the Dave's Pick series, it was a little overwhelming because there's so much good music and so much different music. It's certainly not a uniform year where, spring of 77, probably one of the greatest tours in Grateful Dead history, one of my favorite tours as well, but there's a uniform kind of format throughout the year. Whereas 85, I don't feel that way. I feel that every show is completely different, its own thing, and completely excellent. So, I mean, it was one of those years that every time we try to do it, I kind of get sidetracked and start going, well, what about this one and this one? And it took a lot of, I think, determination and patience and discipline to make sure that as we got into these Frost shows, and they are tremendous, I would not change a thing. Make sure that we didn't veer off and go, oh, maybe we should also check out a couple of those shows or this one. I see this Dave's Pick series lasting a long time. I sure hope so. So I think we're going to have some longevity where these shows that didn't get hit from 1985 this time around will get hit in the future. And there are a lot of great shows. The energy is palpable. The energy is unmatched in a lot of ways. It is the Dead celebrating their 20th anniversary. 20 years so far is the way they build the year with the Minuteman, the terrific logo. And I think that just goes to show that, yes, they've made it 20 years, but they saw no end in sight. And here we are on the cusp of the Grateful Dead celebrating 60 years of being this thing that we call the Grateful Dead, which, we're still chasing shows, we're still going to shows, we're still listening to these archival recordings. These were made by Dan Healy and they sound phenomenal. His PA mixes, I mean, they're so good, and it comes through in the tape. So you got these incredible mixes, everybody clear and present. 20 years so far, yeah, and now 40 years later, this is, 39, but we're heading into 2025 with the 60th anniversary of the Grateful Dead coming up. And again, I talk about the Dave's Pick series where every time we don't do a show, because we're doing this one, we're doing the Frost, we're doing the Palladium show next for number 50, it just means that the next ones that didn't get picked this time around will get hit in the future. And I mean, I certainly hope, I'd love to see the Dave's Pick series hit number 100 someday. That's in another 13, 14 years, but there's no reason it shouldn't. There's certainly enough material left in the vault that we haven't released. And as long as you're still interested in picking them up, we're still interested in doing them. So thanks a lot. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up now. But if you love high energy, incredibly inspired, really fun Grateful Dead music, these couple of shows from the Frost, April 27th and 28th, 1985, in Palo Alto, the Grateful Dead's home. Grateful Dead often referred to as a San Francisco band, but they really were a Palo Alto band. It's where they met. It's where they formed. It's where they first played their gigs. The acid tests down there. This is the Dead at home, and it feels that way. They feel very comfortable while having the time of their lives and giving those Deadheads in the crowd. Remember, the Frost was a small place, maybe 8,000, I think, giving them the time of their lives as well. So I will say, head over to dead.net. All the information is there to order. Again, if you've subscribed, you're covered. It'll show up whenever it does, which is pretty soon, I think. If you haven't subscribed and you prefer to get these a la carte, do get it sooner than later because they do tend to sell out. These are great shows. My good friend, Mark Pincus, the president of Rhino, a guy I've worked with, it seems like forever, but it's been almost 15 years, Mark. He attended these shows. He made a video about his experience attending them. They're somewhere on the Grateful Dead's YouTube channel, I imagine, or somewhere on the website. But Mark, this one, I really think you're going to love how this one sounds. I certainly do. And the shows themselves, you are a lucky man to have attended these because they're great shows. So anyhow, head over to dead.net. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry this is not a seaside chat. It is just... the snow is still coming down. It's really coming down now. So I'm glad I'm not out there, and the snow is kind of turning to ice because it's just on the cusp of freezing level. So I prefer to do it inside, plus the tide is too high to do it. So thanks a lot for watching. I will see you here in about 3 months as we really get into the nitty gritty of Dave's Picks Volume 50 from the Palladium in New York City on May 3rd, 1977, with a special shout out to May 4th, which is also a great show. Anyhow, we'll see you here next time. I'm Dave, and thanks a lot for watching. And this is a good one. You're going to like it.